Or
Not anymore.
not anymore. Okay.
Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to a very, very special special presentation today. Happy Wednesday, everyone, and a very, very, very warm welcome. I am beyond excited today to be bringing you this very, very, very special presentation on the People's Platform. Today, we have with us from the Pyramid Science Foundation, we have Charlie Ziese, and from Pyramid Surge, we have the wonderful, lovely Ziese Richards. And today we are going to be discussing and divulging in depth, tales of true power, lost history, the Tartarian Empire, ancient mathematics, geometry, healing modalities, techniques, and the wondrous potency and power of these Russian pyramids and the beautiful, beautiful capstones that Ziese Richards makes. We're going to get into even so much more than that, guys. We have so much information to get into with you today. So sit back, relax, open your heart, mind, and soul. Here we go. Charlie, Ziese, thank you so much for being here with me today. It's a pleasure and honor to have you.
Well, thank you, Greg. We really do appreciate the chance to be here with you. We do have a lot of information, and we're excited to have a chance to discuss that with your audience. This truly is a journey for both of us to rediscover, in most cases, this ancient knowledge, this ancient wisdom that's been suppressed and kept from us. And as we discover it, it's really been our joy to make products based upon this information, and also to disseminate the information and the results of the research that we've been doing to help people to understand that this is a technology. It's a technology that has been known for thousands of years, as we'll see today. Ancient architecture going back, and information going back as far as the ancient Vedas, all knew about this geometry. I've been doing research for the last several years as I begin to become more and more aware of the fact that this information as well has been hidden from us. But most importantly, and we'll be talking more about this tomorrow, some of my more recent research into the sacred geometry of the pyramids is really leading me to understand that this geometry is very likely the very geometry that nature uses to scale our thoughts, to take that pure thought down to our physical reality and create from it. So we got lots of information to go over today. So Ziese is going to be starting our presentation today, and I'm going to start by just opening up some slides. I hope that I am technologically proficient here, but we have, let's see, are you able to see my screen now?
It hasn't come up on my end yet.
Okay, well, let's see here.
Should we wait a few more minutes till people join us, or?
Yeah, it's up to you, Greg.
Yeah, we can go. Well, I have it now on my end.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't. New technology for me, but anyway, do you want to wait, or shall we get going?
I think we should. Just get going.
Okay.
I think just roll with it.
All right.
I'm ready.
Well, if you can see these slides now, what I put up just for starters, Lisa's going to go through, for those of you who aren't really familiar with pyramids, and you're most likely not familiar with the products that we offer. I wanted to show you, this is just a cover page to introduce you to Stargate Pyramids, to Pyramid Surge, and to the Pyramid Science Foundation. The foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit that Ziese and I put together a couple of years ago. And the purpose of it is to do research and into pyramids, their healing powers, as well as to disseminate that information to the public. So you can see the products that we have on the page, and then I'm going to let Lisa go over these in greater detail. You can see in the middle on the left, there's some of the Stargate pyramids that I make. The rest of these products, we both make caduceus coils, which are on the bottom right hand page of that page. And then you're also going to see in the bottom left the capstones, samples of the capstones that Lisa makes, as well as in the center a product that's called the Apex Amplifier. So I'm going to stop sharing at the moment for now and turn it back to Lisa. So Lisa, you may want to go ahead and give people a lot more. She has a lot more information to talk about on these products.
Yeah, definitely. So, like Charlie said, we started the Pyramid Science Foundation because of our passion for pyramid power. And we want to spread this awareness around the world, especially with the mass awakening that's going on right now. People are looking for alternative healing modalities. They're tired of being sick and tired. They've been made to feel sick and tired, and they're awakening to that. And this alone, this simple device can save so many lives just in that aspect. People are familiar with the Giza pyramid and the meditations in the Giza pyramid. But I like to tell people it's, the Giza pyramid has power behind it, but it's kind of like the dial-up connection. Okay. The Russian pyramid, the steeper the angle, the more power it's going to have, the more instantaneous you're going to see your results. So, the Russian geometry, which are the pyramids that Charlie and I make, they're going to be more like the high-speed internet. So if you want to heal faster, if you want to manifest things in your life faster, you're going to want one of the Russian geometry pyramids. And as you can see, we're all sitting in them, but you can see they're made with basic PVC pipe. Very simple to make, but they're very powerful in that aspect. One of the things the Russians discovered was that if they incorporated metal into this geometry, it dulled down the effects. It didn't get rid of them permanently, but it just dulled down the effects some. So that's why they should be made of non-conductive material. The Giza pyramid, we're not saying that should be. That is fine made of metal. It's actually more powerful made of metal, the Giza geometry. But for this one, for some reason, this geometry does not react well with metal. So that's why it's made with the PVC pipe. But, Charlie even has a video on the website. When you go to his website, stargatepyramids.com, he even has a video on our YouTube channel, which is the Pyramid Science Foundation, on how to make your own with basic materials for $30. We willingly share and are openly sharing this information for people who can't afford it. We want people to have access to this healing technology. But for people that are busy, we welcome your orders as well, and we put a lot of love and care into all of our products. Charlie and I were on with JCK about 4 months ago, and our businesses just exploded because of it. And we have been working nonstop. I finally have some time to breathe, but people were waiting over 3 months for their orders because of that, but they were people that understood what energy healing was about. So they're always very patient and kind and loving. And, always thanking me for the updates I give them and thanking me for the work that I do and, thanking Charlie as well. And it's such a loving environment. Every time I go and read the emails that people are sending, I just have tears in my eyes because I'm always expecting an irate message. And I very rarely get those. And it's just amazing,
Right.
People are looking for different things and we're really helping them with that. So, you see us all sitting inside of these pyramids, but you very rarely get to see the whole pyramid. And you saw some of those on Charlie's slide a little bit ago, but I'm going to put my camera up a little bit so you can kind of see the peak. I don't know if you want to do that too, Greg.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, so this is the 6-foot pyramid. I have a 7-foot pyramid upstairs in my other room as well. And if you can see up top here, Now, it's called the Apex Amplifier, and it's a little platform I made. It sits about a foot below the apex, or the peak of the pyramid. You can see the capstone on top, and then I have a jar of water charging on the Apex Amplifier platform. Now that platform, like I said, it sits about a foot below the apex, but we discovered that that's the most powerful spot in the pyramid, in the Stargate pyramid. So it's ideal for charging water. If you have products that you're going to grow, put your seeds up there and you can charge your seeds as well. If you have crystals, put your crystals up there and you can charge your crystals. You can charge pretty much anything. Let me show you right here. And they're really easy to assemble. Okay. Charlie makes, if you go to Stargate Pyramids, he makes the meditation pyramids themselves. And then on Pyramid Surge, which there's a link from his shop to mine, I make the accessories. So they're already going to be super powerful when you buy the Stargate Pyramid alone. And I really kind of liked how that worked, that people had to wait 3 months for their products because they got to experience the power of the Stargate Pyramid alone and then the power of it with the accessories.
Yeah.
Because it is a dramatic difference. It's power alone, super powerful with the Stargate. But once you start adding the accessories and, adding your intention, that's even way more powerful. So taking control of your health, that's what this is all about. So this is one of the Apex amplifiers that I make. You just slide it over the poles. And one thing I discovered is that I'm going to have to start putting a "this side is up" sticker because some people are not aware that there's a slight angle to these holes, and they try to put it on upside down, which is the wrong angle. So now the poles are going to stress when you push in, and it usually breaks the plate. So I've had to replace some of the plates because of that. But if you put it on correctly, I assure you it will fit perfectly and it will not break. Now, another thing that I make are capstones. So this is one of my standard capstones that I make, and this is one of my most populars. It's called the Awakening. Let me see here.
That's beautiful.
I love
the blue.
Yeah. So all the colors, all the crystals that I make my pyramids with, they have energy frequencies, and they're designed for certain healing modalities, certain aspects to help you. This is the Awakening, so it's going to help open your awareness to what's really going on in the world around you. And not only that, but what's going on in your inner world as well. So it's going to merge the spirit and the physical, and it's going to really help you with that awakening process. Awakenings are a bit dirty, they're a bit horrifying sometimes to people. So you need tools like this to help you ascend, and that's what it's all about. Now on the bottom, you can see that there's 4 holes. And it just goes right over the pole. The poles go right in the holes there to sit right on the top of the pyramid. Now, what I like to do is get a standard capstone like the Awakening. I have one called the Goddess. I have one called the Morpheus, which is going to help transform more of the EMFs and things like that. But I also have this one. It's called in black and white. And they all have great descriptions on my page. On my site to explain what each one's going to do for you. So I also make another product, which is called Bionized Sand, and it's based off of the work from Wilhelm Reich. And he discovered orgone energy many, many years ago. I think it was in the 50s. And he also discovered a process called bionization. And it's where through a process of freezing and boiling multiple times, you actually infuse whatever you're freezing and boiling with life force energy. And he actually saw this underneath his microscope. He would see these little blue luminescent orbs of life force energy just being attracted to the product. And it never dissipated. It retained that high vibration indefinitely. So what I do is I'll take quartz sand, and I put it through a process of freezing and boiling several times. And so that's going to draw in the life force energy to it. And when you put it, what I do is I offer a service where I put it inside of the poles of Charlie's Stargate pyramids. And it's like sitting inside of a huge quartz crystal. I mean, it supercharges your meditations, it supercharges your healings. It's just amazing product. And I also put the bionized sand in all of my capstones as well. There's always a layer of that bionized sand in there. So since it always has a high vibration and it never dissipates, you can even just, take one of the capstones and sit it on the counter, put your crystals around it if you don't have time to put them outside in the moonlight, and just charge them that way. It'll always retain the high vibration.
Yeah, I do that as well. I do that with all my herbs, with my food, with my crystals. I will literally carry it around the house with me. We're attached at the hip, myself and my capstone. I'll use it for meditation as well. When I go to my meditation mat, I'll put it in the center of me while I meditate. I have it on my bedside while I sleep. So yeah, I'm very, very connected to my capstone. I just absolutely love it. I cannot say enough the profound effects that I have already experienced from them, that I experienced immediately as I opened up the package. I felt the energy from it. Being an attuned empath, I feel these things. So I felt the energy from it. And as I told you guys yesterday, I'm like a kid in a candy store with this stuff. So the stuff that excites me, all these modalities and techniques is what lights my fire. It's my passion.
Yes. And so that's awesome. Well, the capstone that Greg is talking about is actually one that I made personally for him. It's called an intuitive design capstone because I am an intuitive as well. And so I have, customers send me pictures of themselves and I just glance at their picture and tune into their energy. And it'll come to me, the crystals that are needed and the colors that are needed at this time for their transformation, to assist them. And it's funny because at first when I offered this service, I used to have people send me this long message. Well, I like the color purple and I'm drawn to amethyst and this and that, and pretty much not allowing me to intuitively design one for them. They wanted to do it themselves. And after I explained to them, if you constantly gravitate towards things that you like, you're always going to remain at the same vibration. And this is about transformation. So allowing me to design one for you, you will probably receive a pyramid with crystals and colors that you normally wouldn't have chosen yourself. But it's going to be one of the most powerful energy tools that you've ever used in your life because of that. Because it's helping you step outside of the box and feel energies that you weren't aware were there in the first place. So it's really going to open up your perception to that,
Absolutely. And it changes your perception on many things as well. And while allowing you to open yourself up to these energies, you just learn more about yourself. You discover more about yourself. You discover more things about your physical body that you didn't realize, things you may need to work on, things you may need to improve, things that don't need any improvement. You actually find your limits, and then you find what limits you can expand upon and go beyond with these energies. The pyramid, the accessories, the capstones, everything that is essentially thrown into this wonderful healing modality package is just, it's beyond profound, guys. And these things really, really do work. But again, as Lisa was stating earlier, it truly is about your intention. You can't just go gung-ho, buy all these things and sit in it and be like, okay, nothing's happening. It truly does take your heart-centered intention to open yourself up to these energies and to open yourself up to the possibilities that you are more than meets the eye. You are more than what you think you are, and you are more than what others have told you you are. So therefore, you really do have to set forth the intention to step into this with the intention of healing yourself and opening yourself up and discovering more things about yourself and these energies. That's truly what it takes. And I'm very blessed to have these healing techniques and modalities in my life, and to be able to express the enthusiasm that I have for these, and to be able to share it with everyone, because everyone needs to know, because the world has indeed suffered through many different avenues an absolute onslaught of illness and ailments and physical conditions through chemtrails, through technology, through food, through modern medicine, through farming, pesticides, chemicals, emotional toxicity, television, programming, conditioning. I mean, the list goes on.
EMF, lest we forget.
Yeah, absolutely. So
we just did a live stream on EMFs with 2 weeks ago, because the pyramid does a tremendous job of remediating EMF frequencies. So I just wanted to point that out. We're not going to hit on that today, but that's a very important area.
No, it is.
I have some footage to show people as well to prove, how it helps in that aspect. And Charlie's going to go over in a little bit the benefits of these pyramids. And it's funny. I had I think the biggest thing for people is that they feel stupid when somebody if they don't know about this, okay, and somebody says, go sit in there and you're going to feel better. They kind of feel stupid that something so simple could have such profound effects on them, when their whole life they've been suffering from one thing or another, and they didn't need to, just from this simple technology. So I think that in their mind, it makes them hesitant on it at first. They'd probably be more willing to try it if somebody wasn't there watching them, just for their pride. So, but I mean, it has some profound effects. We have people that use them for their animals. People share pictures of their pets just gravitate towards this energy all the time, and they'll send us pictures that we share on our Facebook page. I mean, we just interviewed a woman who got rid of her cat's aggression to her other cats because of the pyramid energy.
That's right. It's true. Yep.
Yeah. So, but let me show you this real quick. So one thing I like to do is get a standard capstone and put on the peak of my pyramid. Because it has to go, the one at the peak has to go in the holes, and it's a little hard to try to take it off and change out the capstone all the time, unless you have somebody to help you do it. So that's another reason that the Apex Amplifier platform comes in handy, because if you have this and you don't even need a capstone on the very peak. I mean, you can keep the zip tie that's up there and hold it together easily that way as well. But as long as you have the Apex Amplifier, you can constantly change out the pyramid a lot easier. So if your capstone, and I like to tell people, put your intuitive design capstone. If you get an intuitive design, put it on the Apex Amplifier and see how that changes compared to having it on the peak, because that is the most energized area, was about 1 foot down where the Apex Amplifier sits.
Yeah, that's right. You might want to mention, I know, Lisa, you have a client in Michigan who's ordered, what is it, about 15 of these capstones from you?
Oh, gosh, yes. She's had to have had at least that many so far. And I have another woman, I went through the other day and sent all my customers an email to update them on their shipping. And this one lady, she had 5 separate orders. And I messaged her and I said, I thought you had already ordered all my products. She said, well, I do have a lot of your products, but she goes, I like to change out the capstone all the time. And if you make any more products, I'll probably be ordering those too. So
there you go.
Yeah, they get addictive. They all provide different energies. And, I'm actually working on a chakra set as well, for energy healers, like Reiki specifically. They like to focus on the chakras. And different ones. I'll be coming out with some new capstones soon. And I also come out, with different, these aren't on my site yet, but I'm doing different energy jewelry as well. This is an orgone charging disc, which I usually offer those for free when I ship items, but I make them independents now. So as an option, we all have to do something to protect ourselves from the energies around us. There's a lot of negativity in the world right now. So, just having a pyramid to go home and sit in, it's going to relieve you immensely from all those harsh energies that you pick up throughout the day.
Yeah.
Like you can attest to that, I'm sure, Greg.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's not easy for an empath or a light worker to be rumbling around in the bowels of New Jersey. I can honestly attest to that. But yeah, no, I love being able to come home and being able to reflect on the day and essentially disconnect and cut cords. And there's no better way and no better vessel to do that in than the Russian pyramids, and with the capstones and with all the other healing modalities that are out there. We truly do, especially as empaths and just as human beings in general, our bodies are sponges. We absorb everything that exists within our existence, both internally and externally. We absorb, our organ systems absorb. There's energy blocks abound. So it is very, very important every day to set the intention, to take the practice up, to essentially cut cords, recalibrate, rejuvenate, revitalize yourself. And what better way to do that than a Russian pyramid or a capstone or any other healing modality that's out there? There's more than just this, guys. This is just one of the many, many techniques that are now being revealed as absolutes, as truths. That are in existence for you guys to use and to obtain and to implement in your everyday lives. So I highly stress that to everyone, that it is very, very vital when playing in the external, which we all do. We have to. We're still in duality, obviously. When we come back from the external, we have to disconnect from the external and come back to the internal. And there are tools out there that can make the experience more compounded and more profound, more revitalizing, and even more profoundly healing than just sitting down and watching TV and saying, okay, this is how I'm going to disconnect. Or, those modalities don't work. They don't heal us. They just suppress the feelings. They just keep things away from us. They keep everything buried. Doing and stepping into something like this allows you to actually excavate, actually allows you to dig, and then allows you to release. So I highly recommend it for anyone who's looking to implement something more natural and profoundly holistic into their routine to help aid them disconnect and reconnect with self.
Yes. Yeah,
Cool.
definitely. And, especially you are, and anybody, if you're in the limelight, if you are a public speaker and people are constantly connecting to you energetically, it's going to be draining on you as well, so, and there's always going to be people that are negatively connecting to you, not only just relying on you for information, which is, it's not bad, I should say, but it is draining, just when people look to you for comfort constantly. But it's even worse when people are wishing you ill, when you're out there preaching truth and in a world full of evil, that's going to happen a lot. So you need to do things like this to protect your energy as well.
Yeah, agreed, 100%.
Well, let me show one more thing, and then I'll take it over to Charlie. Did you have something to say real quick, Charlie?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Well, I do another thing called, we like to do it, through the Pyramid Science Foundation. I should back up there. Through the Pyramid Science Foundation, like I said before, we like to experiment and show people the proof behind these powerful energy tools. And one of the things that I do is called live blood analysis. I have a dark microscope, and I just take a prick of blood from my finger, put it on a slide and put it under that dark microscope. And you can see your blood, your red blood cells, your white blood cells, everything moving in real time. So at my old house, I used to, our bedroom, right on the outside of our bedroom was a smart meter. And I didn't realize it for the longest time. I always wondered why I was so tired when I woke up, and I was so sore when I woke up. And I finally discovered why. It was from that smart meter. So I would wake up and just feel sluggish. But one morning I decided to do one of the live blood analysis tests. So I want to show you the results to that. And this is going to be right after I woke up, probably about a half an hour after I woke up. I sat and played on my phone for about a half an hour, had some coffee, and I'm going to have to move my camera real quick to show you guys, because every time we try to play this video on somebody's live stream, it messes up. Nobody can see it at all. So we're going to sneak around it and show you on my phone here. It seemed to work really good. But let me show you guys real quick. So this is, okay. Can you guys see that? Oh, wait, let me go over here a little bit. It's a little brighter than, I don't know why it's so bright. Can you guys see that okay? Okay, so this is my blood first thing in the morning. And as you can see, the red blood cells are like all sticky and very sluggish. It's called rouleauing, and that can be caused by acidity. It can be caused by electrical magnetic frequencies, all kinds of things. But the red blood cells should not be like that. If you are a healthy person, they shouldn't be stuck together, because they can't go through the cell or the arteries and veins in your body when they're all stuck together like that. So give me 1 second here. I'm gonna turn off my light real quick, just so I can show you this a little bit better. Give me 1 minute while I bring up the other one. Okay, now this next video I'm going to show you was 1.5 hours after that first video. I took my blood again, but in that time I had meditated inside my Stargate pyramid for what was it here? For a half an hour. I also played the caduceus coil with 528 hertz frequency, and I also wore my grounding bracelet on my left wrist. On top of that, I also drank the water that was charging up on my Apex amplifier. It was about 8 ounces of water, and I drank that right after I did my blood the first time. So this is an hour and a half later, and the results are just amazing. Let me show you here. So do you see how fast those are going? And they're all separated now. They're not stuck together. The red blood cells are just moving around like crazy. And, you know, I've also done studies. I don't have them here to show you today, just because of the pain in the butt this is causing right now with this phone. But you can see the profound effects that this technology has on your healing. This is your blood, and it's proof right in front of your face that what you're using, this technology, is doing something for you. So if your blood's moving faster like that, the cells are going to be separated. They're going to be able to move through the arteries and veins. You're going to get oxygenated faster. You're going to have better healing. You're going to have better breathing. You're going to have so many better things. I mean, it's just amazing. It's amazing the results that I'm seeing with this. And the live blood analysis is probably the most profound testing that I've seen with the pyramid energy alone. And I know that was a lot of things at once, you know, with the coil, with the frequencies playing, and the meditation pyramid, and the grounding bracelet. But I've also done separate ones. And just drinking the pyramid water alone, you're going to see results like that as well. Just drinking the pyramid water alone.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I can definitely attest to that too. And we spoke about this last night. There's just something that's, the water is, it's softer. The molecules are more absorbable. I feel the same thing with the food and the herbs too. When I charge them in the pyramid or on top of the disc, or just simply put them by the capstone. I told you yesterday that I will put certain herbs around the capstone, and certain nervines or adaptogens I feel after I take them from being on the charging disc or by the capstone are just that much more potent and get into the system that much quicker. And actually your body can actually receive all of the benefits from them because they have that extra positive charge within them. Whatever impurities have existed within that herb or within that concoction, within that water, are just gone. I feel better after drinking pyramid charged water. It's just so much softer and so much fresher. The taste is more palatable because as we all know, the water that is, at your local grocery store or wherever you obtain water from is not always the very, very best. We really do have to spend an arm and a leg and actually, go to great lengths to just get really, really clean water. And tap water, forget it. Even the water that comes out of our showers is not of the best quality. Sorry, hate to surprise anybody, but it's really not the best. So I can truly attest to the quality of the food and the water and the herbs definitely amplifies while being around these or within these modalities, especially the water. There is just such a velvety almost softness to the water that you don't get from the bottle or from the glass or from any other source. So
it makes everything that you put inside the pyramid more pure. The water will be more pure, the food will be more pure, even yourself, you're going to be a more pure human. And you can even see that in your capstone, because another thing that it does, it actually makes the crystals more pure. If a crystal is sitting inside of a Russian pyramid, even at your own crystals, it doesn't even have to be in a capstone. If you're constantly putting your crystals inside the Russian geometry pyramid, you will see any dirt sediment that's inside of the crystal will eventually fall out of it because it's realigning the structure of that crystal and making it more pure. So even in the capstones that I create, over time, you'll see, if it's a quartz crystal and it has some sediment in the bottom, you'll see that it's actually going to the bottom more of the crystal.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's over to you, Charlie.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take this now into the land of science. One of the things that got me interested in these pyramids, and I really knew nothing about pyramids until about 6 years ago, but David Wilcock is the person who I credit with bringing knowledge of these pyramids to the Western world. And he did a series on Gaia TV called Wisdom Teachings, where he did a 10-part series on the Russian pyramids and the research that went along with it. And that's really what got me started. So I think it's going to be, when I heard these results on his series 6 years ago, I was just blown away. So I think the best place to start is to really talk about the health research, because that's what I think a lot of us are interested in today. I mean, I'm a Medicare age person, and I'm proud to say that I'm part of the 7%, not the 1%, but the 7% for Medicare people. There's only 7% of us who don't take any prescription drugs, medications on the planet. When I go into, which is rare to go into a doctor's office unless it's a dentist or an ophthalmologist or something like that, but they're always blown away when I tell them that I don't take any medications, and they look at me like I'm nuts. But I attribute a big part of that to the pyramid, and of course a healthy lifestyle in general that we all should be doing. We should be exercising. We should be drinking good water. We should be meditating. We should be eating organic foods and so forth. But anyway, this is what led me into this. So I just want to start off by I'm going to share my screen. Hope I do this right. And if I don't, well, can you see my screen?
It's not up on my end yet.
Okay, well then I'm not doing something right. There we go. My mistake. All right, now we're there. Okay, so, all right. So this is just a bullet point summary of the Russian pyramid research as it relates to health. And I'm going to elaborate on these because these are really important and significant findings. The first bullet point here, they did some studies on mice, and what they did to the mice, they used a classic, scientific technique is to have a control group and the experimental group. And in this case, the Russians used mice as their sample. But what they did was the control group lived in their traditional cages, but the other group was placed inside of a Russian pyramid. And what happened was they injected these mice with a bacteria called Salmonella typhimurium, which is what causes typhoid fever. Now, that's very virulent and will, in lethal dosages, result in death in the vast majority of cases. So what they did was to inject the mice with this Salmonella typhimurium bacteria. And what happened was those mice that lived in the pyramid, their survival rate was 10 times higher, or 1,000% higher. So to be more specific, those that were in the pyramid group had a 60% survival rate inside the pyramid, whereas the mice that were in the control group and lived outside the pyramid, only 6% of them survived. Now they they gave them an even more lethal dosage in another set or part of this experiment, and in that case, only 3% in the control group survived, and 30% survived inside the pyramid. So just a huge impact on survival rates. And that's something that we all should be considering in our current world situation with COVID. In another example, they tested what's called the breeding capacity of the encephalomyocarditis, or EMC virus. And what they found was that by placing this virus in a medium of pyramid water as opposed to regular water, that the breeding capacity of the EMC virus went down by 300%. Part of the reason why these impacts on immune function are so dramatic, as it turns out in another study, they looked at the thymus glands of mice. Again, one group living inside the pyramid and another outside. And what they did was they would look at the size of the thymus gland of the mice. They would kill the mice and they would literally measure the size of the thymus gland. Now, for those in the audience who you may or may not know this, but the thymus gland is it's an organ down in your chest area, and it is the organ that produces what are called T cells. Now, T cells are vitally important in immune function. The T cells are the ones that go out throughout the body. They retain the institutional memory. If you've had coronavirus in the past, if it sees something that's very similar to whatever it may have been exposed to before, it's the cell that calls out the light brigade, so to speak, and brings the immune function to get rid of that coronavirus in your body. Well, what they found was, again, using myself as an example, is you get to be Medicare age. As you get older, the size of your thymus gland decreases, and it becomes fatty, and it essentially isn't producing the number of T cells that it normally would when you're younger. And that's the reason why the elderly are generally more susceptible to infectious disease. Well, as it turns out, the size of the thymus gland in the mice actually, it grew back from a smaller size in the elderly mice, and it grew in size. And not only, therefore, was the thymus gland producing more T cells, but those T cells themselves had a longer life. And why is that important? The longer the T cells' life, the longer and the greater the institutional memory of your immune function. And that's what helps to keep us healthy and free from disease as we get older. So really some pretty dramatic results there. In another study, this is now the fourth bullet down, they took a group of 20 premature at-risk babies, and anyone who is severely premature, a baby at birth, is going to have a severely compromised immune system. And they gave each one of these premature babies something called an instantaneous index, and all of these babies were expected to die within the next 12 hours because of their severely compromised immune systems. Well, what happened? They gave each of these 20 premature babies water that had been stored, as you and Lisa were talking about before. Just drinking that water was sufficient to keep each and every one of those 20 children from passing on, and when they were expected to pass on without the benefit of that pyramid water. So just an amazing result. In another example, what happened in this next case, there was a city in Russia that was downwind from a very, very toxic power plant, or chemical plant, excuse me. And it was so toxic. In fact, we're watching Chernobyl right now, and I think about this experiment when I'm watching that HBO miniseries. But they had evacuated an area of 25 kilometers around this toxic chemical plant because of all of the cancer and infectious diseases that were resulting from the fumes coming out of the plant. Well, this particular city was 40 kilometers away, so they hadn't evacuated it, but it was still, because it was directly downwind, it was still having significant levels of cancer and infectious diseases as a result of the environmental toxins. Well, they built a Russian pyramid midway between the power plant and the city, and within 3 years' time, the number of deaths attributed to these airborne infectious diseases, the environmental poisonings, cancer, and so forth, decreased by over 90%, from over 700 per year to under 10. And after 3 years, they stopped keeping track because there was basically no more problem as a result of the pyramid being placed between the toxic plant and the town. The pyramid will dramatically increase your blood platelet count. Also, there were studies. They actually, Dr. Galad, Alexander Galad, who was in charge of all of this research in Russia, out of his own pocket, he built a pyramid on the roof of a hospital, and you can see that in the picture on the right, and it dramatically improved the rates of healing. The doctors all said that people were healing in less than half the time that it normally took for wounds to heal. And Greg, I know you talked to us yesterday about a situation that you experienced yourself where the pyramid greatly benefited you and the rate of healing. So you might want to talk about that.
Yeah, I would definitely like to express this to the audience. Absolutely. I suffered a laceration on my lower abdomen about a few months ago. And it was one of those situations where it was borderline, should you go? Should you have it taken care of? Should you not? Obviously, with the current state of hospitals right now being death traps, that was not an option for me. So instead, being an herbalist and being a naturopath and wellness practitioner myself, and simply being redneck innovative, I made a 2-in-1 ratio compound of organic cornstarch and cayenne pepper. Now, I gently put that into the wound. Now, the cornstarch will essentially clot the blood, and the cayenne pepper will cauterize the wound, cleanse it, clear it of all infections, and essentially begin to seal it shut. All right. Now, it's going to burn. It's going to feel a little bit painful. I don't recommend this for every situation, but this is just something that I chose to do to initially stop the bleeding. Now, my next step was my pyramid. I said, I'm just going to patch this up and I'm just going to sit in my pyramid. And that's exactly what I did. I sat in the pyramid I sectioned it off for about 3 to 4 hours for the next 3 days. I just gave at least 3 to 4 hours to my pyramid where I just sat there. I relaxed. I meditated. I just gave time for myself. I set aside that time for myself. I kid you not. 3 days later, a 5-inch laceration was not only healed, but there was brand new, fresh, pearly white skin. Completely healed, no scarring, no sign of anything had ever taken place. Gone.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, I can truly attest to this, guys. It does work. Again, you have to set the intention and you have to actually give your time to it. Give your heart, give your time to it. It does work. I was blown away, though. I didn't know it was going to be, I didn't know that the effects were going to be that dramatic. I set the intention for it to simply speed up the healing process. To kind of push it along down the road a little bit more so that I wouldn't have to, focus on it or worry about it. And it exceeded those expectations.
Wow.
There is no scarring, no wound whatsoever. And this was borderline hospital, guys. This was borderline, like, you're going to need stitches, you're going to need shots, you're going to need this. And all it took was a little 2-in-1 compound of organic cornstarch and cayenne pepper, and 3 to 4 hours over the next 3 days, increments in the pyramid. Done.
Wow, that's amazing. We're going to be talking a lot about some testimonials tomorrow, with your Patreon group.
Mm-hmm.
But, just to finish off, I got a call yesterday from a purchaser of capstone, amplifier, caduceus coil, pyramid, the whole works. A gentleman in Canada, and he told me that his wife had a friend who was in critical care at a hospital, was given 48 hours to live. She got inside the pyramid and she prayed for an hour or so, and received information 12 hours later that the doctors couldn't explain what had happened, but the person had healed. So, this stuff happens, and it's amazing. But there is, like we're trying to show you here, there is science to back up these kinds of testimonials. But anyway, to continue on here, we got a few more to talk about on this page. It dramatically lowers violent behavior in mice and in humans by reducing stress hormones. One of the classic things that they did, again showing that the pyramid can impact not just water, but in this case, what they did was they took table salt that we would use for cooking and so forth, put on our food, and they stored that in the pyramid for a while, and then they distributed that table salt into 20 prisons in the Russian prison system. And this particular test encompassed about 6,000 prisoners. And each one of the wardens in these prisons said that it was almost like someone had changed out in the middle of the night the prison population, because violent behavior dropped to virtually nothing within a month of their introduction of this table salt into the diets of these prisoners. And separately, they did research with mice, and they were able to determine that the mice also, their violent behavior went down, but they were able to, they measured the stress hormones, the cortisol levels, and other compounds in the mice, and found that exposure to the pyramid resulted in a substantial reduction in those stress hormones. In another example, they injected mice with a variety of carcinogens and cancer-causing agents, and they found that drinking the pyramid water dramatically reduced both the incidence of tumors and their growth. And finally, in both humans and in animals, it was found that athletic endurance increased by at least 200% from those people who were impacted or exposed to pyramid energy fields. So this is just a brief summary of some of the fantastic information on health that's available. And we are looking, this might be an interesting digression point right now to talk about. Lisa and I have been in touch with Dr. Hamel Patel, who is a researcher at the University of California, San Diego. He is working currently with Dr. Joe Dispenza. Most of you in this audience probably know him, but he is a leading brain researcher and meditator. And they are finalizing a paper to disclose what they have found in terms of the method of action of meditation on enhancing immune function. So Lisa and I have been in touch with him. Once we are able to procure funding for similar kinds of research, Dr. Patel says that he's ready to move forward. So if there's anybody out there who wants to either help contribute or might know of places that would be interested in helping to fund that kind of research, we would definitely be interested in talking to you. So,
oh, definitely. Hey, Charlie, real quick, is the website still down for the Pyramid Science Foundation right now?
It is right now. It should be back up in the next couple of days. But when it comes back up, you can go to the pyramidsciencefoundation.org website. That's another topic. We're in the process of moving all of our websites, and that's down temporarily, but you can make contributions there to help support our efforts. Lisa and I take no money as compensation. We use every penny that goes into the foundation for research purposes.
Yes, yes.
So,
can I mention one other highlight
Sure.
real quick of the pyramid energy? It just amazed me when I found this out. But so in Russia, they have a pyramid that was 144 feet high. They built the same geometry. People would go inside, have spontaneous healings, just amazing results from this. But one of the things they found is outside of the pyramid, where the corners of the pyramid come out, there were plants growing that they didn't recognize. So they had them analyzed, and they had went extinct 11,000 years ago. So this pyramid, the pyramid energy alone, is reactivating life on the planet. I mean, it's just amazing what this technology can do and how it's been hidden from us. Simple things like this have been hidden from us intentionally because they want us to remain sick and under their rule. We are energy beings. We need to realize this and activate our energy again. And the planet will just, it's going to be a mass awakening. It really is. And this is going to be one of the tools that helps with this. It's an amazing tool.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we're going to move away from the health benefits now, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of history on some of the people who have been working in the area of sacred geometry and some of their discoveries. One of the people who was working on, as it turns out, the very geometry of the pyramid, but only in 2 dimensions, at the same time that I was discovering the geometry of the Russian pyramids, was a gentleman named Marshall Lefferts. Marshall was, until I think last year, the president of the board of directors of the Resonance Science Foundation, which is the organization that Nassim Haramein associated with, where he does all of his quantum physics research. But Marshall came up with what he called the phi scaling angle. And I wanted to show you some examples of that as a way to kind of introduce you to the work that I've been doing over the last year and a half or so, looking at man-made objects. But Marshall noticed that this specific geometry of the Russian pyramid is found in nature, and I wanted to show you some of these quickly, as backdrop. The picture in the top left is of tree bark, and I don't know if you can see it very easily, but he's got the angle of the pyramid showing up in the bark of the tree. Bottom left-hand corner, if you go to the beach at low tide, you can find this geometry is in the patterns of sand at low tide at the beach. Top right-hand corner, this is an evergreen tree, once again, demonstrating that this geometry, this is in 2 dimensions. And finally, in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a flock of birds that are flying in this geometry as well. So, Marshall noticed this, and part of the amazing work that he's done shows in his book Cosmometry, Exploring the Whole Fractal Nature of the Cosmos, that this exists in nature in infinite varieties. And of course, phi itself shows up in our human body and so forth, but in 2 dimensions, this phi scaling angle shows up in nature in a variety of different ways. Well, separate and distinct from what Marshall was doing, but at the same time, my issue was first trying to determine what the geometry of the Russian pyramids was. And as it turns out, we're going to talk about this more tomorrow, I kind of ended up using a very similar methodology to Marshall to come up with that. You'll see on the left, that's one of the pyramids. This was a pyramid that was built outside of Moscow. And David Wilcock, Dr. Gollin, there was no information whatsoever describing how sacred geometry fit into the geometry of the Russian pyramid. We had some very rough estimates of we're going to talk about here in a minute, is the slant angle. We knew it was a little over 76 degrees, but we had no idea, and it had never been disclosed how that was actually, how sacred geometry fit into the dynamics of the Russian pyramids. So what I did about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, to discover that, I knew that circles or in 3-dimension spheres were deemed to be the most likely model for how things get created. They all get created inside of a sphere. So I decided to try something, and I took a series of circles in 2 dimensions in this middle diagram here, and I decreased the radius or diameter of each of those circles by phi. So we haven't talked about phi yet, but phi is 1.618. It's the universal scaling ratio. We're going to get to that in a minute. But by dividing 1 by 1.618, you get, in this case, in the second circle, A1, B1 equals 0.618. You divide 0.618 by 1.618, you get 0.382 and so forth. So I built a series of these circles, and what I couldn't go to infinity, so I did it about 15 different times. And then I drew a straight line along the edge of those circles And what resulted was the geometry that's depicted in the right diagram. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner, you see angle B is 76.345 degrees. And at the top, that's what's called the apex angle is 27.309 degrees. Now, the first way I was able to confirm that this was correct was by using an app that any of you can use from Google Chrome called the MB Ruler. It's an online protractor app, and that's what I used for a lot of the research that I've done over the last year and a half. It's only accurate to 2 significant digits, so I can't get it to 76.345, but suffice it to say that within that margin of error, the Russian pyramid measures precisely with the geometry that I discovered doing my sacred geometry research. A lot of people say, well, gee, the Giza pyramid looks a whole lot different than the Russian pyramid, and it does. But what is not immediately apparent will become apparent in this diagram on the left. What I've done, the short pyramid AEF, that's actually the Giza pyramid. And then the taller pyramid version is the Russian pyramid. And what I've done is to plot those, assuming each of them has a base length of 2 for demonstration purposes. The important thing to find out, though, is that phi, this universal scaling angle, appears everywhere in the geometry of both the Giza and the Russian pyramids. The height of the Russian pyramid is 4.116. I don't want to bore people with geometry too much here, but phi is involved in that. It's 2 times the square root of phi cubed. The height of the Giza pyramid is the square root of phi. The ratio of those 2 heights is 3.236, which is 2 times phi. Similarly, the slant height, which is the one going, in this case, from F to C, that's the slant height of the pyramid, or in the Giza, from E to F. The slant height of the Russian pyramid is 4.236, or phi cubed. The slant height of the Giza pyramid is 1.68, or phi. And the slant height ratio is 2.618, or phi squared. And then finally, and this I think is the clincher for most people, just to see a number that's exactly the same. The slant angle of the Russian pyramid, as we mentioned earlier, is 76.345 degrees. But look at that. The apex angle, which is the angle at the top of the Giza pyramid, is exactly the same. This can't be a coincidence. We're going to show you in a few minutes that the Egyptians knew about this geometry as well, because it's in some Egyptian hieroglyphs. But now you can see there are intimate relationships, including the precise sharing of a specific geometric angle in the geometry of these 2 pyramids.
Hey, Charlie, can you kind of touch on, a lot of people think the Russian and the Nubian pyramid are the same, and they're not.
Yeah, there's a lot of, there's misunderstanding, unfortunately, in a lot of the pyramid research and the sacred geometry research, and this is one example. A lot of people think that the Nubian pyramid has a specific geometry to begin with. And I will be demonstrating this in the book, but it's a great point to make. When you go out on Bing or Google Images and you measure the angles of the Nubian pyramids, they are all over the map. The slant angle is certainly steeper than the Giza pyramid, but unlike the Russian pyramid at 76.345 degrees, that slant angle for the Nubian pyramids can range anywhere from about 50 to 60 degrees, and some maybe even a little bit higher than that. But there is no specific Nubian geometry. It's one of those things that we're going to see another example of that tomorrow when we talk about some of the more recent research I've done. But people have just assumed that there is a a specific Nubian geometry when there in fact is not. So anyway, to move on, now I want to get into the section of my research, and my book is going to be heavily involved with this when I finally get it published. I've started looking at geometry of the Russian pyramid, and I wanted to see if I could find it in other man-made buildings, architecture, and the like. And I have to credit, I always love to give credit where credit's due. I don't know if I would have never looked at this, but I got started on this amazing journey that I'm going to just highlight over the next 20 or 30 minutes from an email that I received from Patrick Koster in the Netherlands. And you can see it here. He said, "Nice work. Are you familiar with this temple site in India? Seems interesting geometry here as well." And this is a picture of the Tiruvannamalai temple complex in India. Well, sure enough, when you go and measure it, he was right on the mark. Every one of these temples in this particular complex, and in fact, every single Hindu temple that is in this so-called Dravidian style, which is popular in southern India, have the very slant angle that we find in the Russian pyramids. I have always been interested. Lisa and I were able, this is a kind of a backdrop, we were able to talk to Dr. Galad from Russia just briefly late last year I think it was on New Year's Eve day, but we didn't get a chance to ask him how he had actually come across the geometry. But we're going to find what this is going to show us. This geometry has been known about for thousands of years. And all of the ancient Hindu temple sites, temples have this very slant angle geometry inherent in their architecture. In the northern part of India, you're also going to see this. This is called the Nagara style. And you can find this slant angle in the northern temples as well. You'll find this in Buddhist temples as well. This conical shape at the top of Buddhist temples all have this very slant angle as well. So there's clearly something that they knew about that we have been kept from knowing about. And that's what this journey is all about. Here's a statue of the Buddha. And if you look, this is just a sample. I've done many where the headgear from Hindu deities and the Buddha as well are all within the range of this geometry of the Russian pyramids. So they knew about the power of this in their headwear as well. Here's a pagoda that has this slant angle from Vietnam. Moving on to Egypt, I mentioned that this geometry was known about in some hieroglyphs, which are at the Temple of Karnak. The Temple of Karnak is the largest religious, compound on the planet. And I found out about this once again. I got a great tip from a young man in Australia named Michael Hoynes. I interviewed Michael a couple of years ago as he was making ormus with Russian geometry pyramids, and we talked about that. But sure enough, the slant angle of the pyramid in these Temple of Karnak hieroglyphs is exactly that of the Russian pyramid. We find this in obelisks throughout all of the Egyptian obelisks. The tips or tops of those pyramids have exactly the same geometry as well. We can move on to the Gothic cathedrals that were built in Europe. This is an example of the Cologne Cathedral, and the spires there had this very same geometry. And this is a digression, but I want you to understand that it wasn't just geometry that these Gothic cathedrals knew about. If you're familiar with the concept of cymatics, cymatics is the science of taking sound and creating geometric patterns from sound. And what you see here on the floor of this cathedral, this is St. Peter's in Rome. It's hard to see in this photo, but I've got a close-up in the next slide. All of these figures on the bottom are cymatic diagrams that depict geometric forms that result from specific frequencies. So we don't have a lot of time to talk about this today, but you can see these. So we know even in our cathedral buildings, sacred geometry was known about. Their ability to create specific frequencies from geometry, they obviously knew about that as well. It brings up that question, how is it that we have lost all of that knowledge which is hiding in plain sight? Just to continue on, here we have some pictures of castles. I have a whole chapter in my upcoming book on castles, and you see this geometry in the form of cones on most every castle in Central Europe. Here's a synagogue in Kaliningrad, whose spires had this very same geometry as well. Unfortunately, this synagogue was destroyed during the bombings in World War II, but a replacement synagogue has been built in the city of Kaliningrad, which uses this exact same geometry. Here's a picture of an Islamic mosque in the United States, the Islamic Center of America in Dearborn, Michigan. This is the largest mosque in the United States. Here's another example from Norway. These lovely old churches are called Stav churches, and although there were upwards to 600 of these in the Middle Ages, there are only about 20 or 30 of these that still remain, but they incorporated this geometry as well. Here's one that most of you are going to be familiar with from the book, which name is escaping me anyway, but the Rosslyn Chapel. The spires on the outside of that chapel, as well as some ornamentation. This is next to the front door, contain this geometry as well. This is a pyramid that was built in 1810 on the holy island of Lindisfarne in England. It was the earliest, what's called a day mark in Britain. A day mark is the equivalent, a daytime version of a lighthouse. So it was used as a marker by seafarers. The Knights Templar Church in London has this geometry as well, in a spire at the top of that church. A very famous railway station in London, the St. Pancras Railway Station, has a number of spires that have this geometry. A classic bridge in London, the Tower Bridge in London, has this geometry. A bell tower in Birmingham, England, at the University of Birmingham, Old Joe, has this geometry. The William Wallace Memorial in Scotland has it. Here's an interesting contemporary example. The city of Ottawa, the capital of Canada, has a number of old Tartarian buildings. We're going to talk about Tartaria here in a few minutes. But this is a contemporary addition to the City Hall in the city of Ottawa. And this contemporary pyramid measures 76.345 degrees. Fascinating. In Australia, the Brisbane City Hall clock tower has this same geometry, as does an old synagogue in Sydney called the York Street Synagogue. And then finally, here is St. Basil's Cathedral, which we know best as the Kremlin. When we see the pictures or videos of the Kremlin on our mainstream media, this is what we always see. This used to be a Russian Orthodox cathedral that was subsumed into the Kremlin complex, but it has this very slant angle in the spire with the golden dome in the right-hand photo. Now, we don't have time to go into this, but Greg, if you want to make some comments at this point, there is a tremendous need, I'm just going to say this in general, for us all to understand that the history that each one of us has been taught is false on so many levels.
Yes.
And one classic example of that is the ability to write out of history the largest empire to ever be on the planet, which is the Tartarian Empire. This is a book by a gentleman named Jamie Lee. He wrote this last year. I had the good fortune to interview him last year. We did 2 one-hour videos, and he went through his book. But this book will show you that this empire existed all over the planet. Certainly at a minimum, it included China and India, all of current-day Russia, the Middle East, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Australia, North and South America. So we know that as a minimum, and it was probably worldwide. It's further, at least theorized, that all of that architecture that we just looked at came from a common civilization. It had common architectural features. It had common geometry. And Jamie and others, there are a great number of people doing great work in the video space on YouTube, John Levy being a classic example, show that this architecture has been around. There's evidence as well that this history of the Tartarian Empire was rewritten out of the not only the Russian, but also worldwide history texts after the fall of the Tartarian Empire. So just something to be aware of. We all need to be focused on, as RT's motto, Russian television, question more. We all have to question our history and seek our own truth, because quite honestly, our history books, our media and so forth are not telling it to us.
No,
So,
it's all been suppressed and erased, and essentially everything that is being taught within our education systems, within our classrooms, passed down to our children, is designed ultimately to make us perceive, think, and feel in a certain way that essentially fits a narrative. That's what it's always been. It's always been about a narrative. It's always been about a narrative, essentially, that causes division, that pins us against one another, and that a narrative that we won't question, that we will simply accept and go along with, and therefore go along with the narrative. So everything that we have been taught, essentially, guys, is false. It's not real. It has history has been written by the winners. It has been rewritten and spliced into many different subsections and caves by Jesuits, Phoenicians, reptilians, whatever you want to label them as. It has been dissected. It has been perverted. It has been twisted in order to suit a narrative, in order to suit a story, in order to fulfill the winners of those experiences, of those conflicts. So it is very, very important, and we discussed this yesterday, guys. In order to move forward and in order to learn from our mistakes, we have to truly know where we came from. And it's very important. It's also very important for our ancestral history. It's very important for our healing process. Many of us old souls that have reincarnated for this time existed during the Tartarian Empire. We were a part of all this. We were a part of this all these incredible structures and energies and these absolutely beautiful glorifications to source energy, to God. We were a part of this, guys. So therefore, it is our right to know this. It is our right. It is our God-given right to know where we came from, so that we know where we're going and that we do not make the same mistakes again and again. If we're truly manifesting and creating this new earth, then we need to know where we came from. We can study the hell out of 3D all we want to. We know the world is screwed up. We know it's evil. But truly, to know our ancestral heritage and to know about this one world Tartarian, this Tartarian empire, is vital for all of us moving forward. It is information that needs to be out there and needs to be absorbed and learned by the collective consciousness, because this is how we move forward. This is a big part of how we heal.
Sure. So, although I didn't include it today, if you want to see some more examples, first of all, I would recommend Jamie's book. Jamie, this is the first book that's been written on this topic that's worth reading, and he's done a very good job of putting together a lot of information from disparate sources. But if you go on Google or Bing Images, all you have to do is look up Red Square, and you're going to find spires on any number of buildings in and around Red Square in Moscow. Most of the other examples of this architecture in Russia have been demolished and done purposefully. So you're not going to find it. Another example that you may want to check out independently is to check out, you might query this on a search, which side of the Great Wall of China are the entrances located. Now, the narrative that we're given is that the Great Wall of China was built by the Chinese to keep out the hordes, but the Mongols or whatever from the Tartarian Empire. But in fact, the reverse is true. The entrance to the Great Wall of China the entrances are actually on the Tartarian Empire side to the north. So it was not a question of China defending itself against the Mongols. It was the Tartarians attempting to defend themselves from the Chinese. So just another example of the narrative gone awry. But anyway, here's another example to show you this one world Tartarian Empire. We saw the Karnak picture before, but this is a picture from the Mayan calendar, also known as the Aztec sun calendar. But you'll notice that the two figures they have the same geometry, and they even have the same hole, at the bottom of the pyramid. I'm not sure what that necessarily depicts, but it shows that there was just another example that there was universal knowledge of this geometry, which extended as well into Meso and South America. Here's a more contemporary example. This is the Mormon temple in Salt Lake City. According to the official history, this was built upon the arrival of the Mormons to Salt Lake City in the 1860s. There's a lot of question as to whether that is factually correct. There are pictures of this facility without the spires existing almost before, it looks like, before they ever began construction of the spires. It's a subject of controversy, but no matter, the founders of the Mormon Church were Masons, and this information, I'm sure, in terms of the geometry of the spires that are on the temple, was derived from their knowledge, their Masonic, sacred teachings. Yeah. Going to move on now to another topic. That we're going to start looking at applications of this geometry in other contexts. In this case, I had a viewer send this to me, and again, I'm going to give credit where credit's due. This person had seen that I had previously done a piece on this Lesser Key of Solomon, and had demonstrated that the geometry of the pyramid shows up in the slant angle that's in that diagram. Well, this person looked at that and then looked at Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower, something I had not looked at the time. And sure enough, look at this, it's a perfect match. Not only do they have the geometry of the Russian pyramid, but when you overlay the Lesser Key of Solomon on top of the Wardenclyffe Tower, it fits like a glove. So, the question might be, did Tesla have get some insight from these ancient artifacts, or was this a novel idea of his? I kind of think that he probably had some way of linking these, either through mystery school knowledge or other ways. But this leads us into this next slide, which I think is important in and of itself as well. There's a great researcher named Praveen Mohan on YouTube, and he is a researcher of all of the ancient temples in India and that part of the world. And one of the things that he has done a number of videos on is the idea of the ancient Hindu and Buddhist temples actually having been power plants. And so we're not going to spend a lot of time here, but interestingly enough, as we've seen, the geometry all fits together with the Russian pyramids. And by way of sidelight, one thing we didn't talk about in the Russian pyramid research, but the scientists in Russia measured the amount of energy that was produced by one of these 44 meter pyramids that was built outside of Moscow, and they determined that it would take all of the electric generating capacity in the entire country of Russia to equate to the amount of energy that was produced by that one pyramid. So there's something that's going on here in terms of that geometry as it relates to free energy. More research to come, but clearly there's some links.
Yeah, because what are pyramids? Pyramids are antennas, and they are amplifiers of energy. So all those examples Charlie just showed, I mean, it's an energy grid, a free wireless energy grid from our history that they lied to us about.
That's right.
Yeah, they've always told us pyramids are evil, with tales of mummies and Egyptian gods and death and sacrifice and underground tombs and darkness. So it's definitely been suppressed. Pyramids are not evil at all. They're antennas.
That's
and,
right.
They've aligned energy all across the planet.
Yeah, and just like with any energy tool, you can use it for good or bad. It's all powered by your intention.
That's right. That's
Yep.
right. So here's just to impress upon the point, I thought this was fascinating. Of course, once you get into this, I have the MB ruler. If I see an angle that looks right, I measure it. So Tesla Motors logo has the exact slant angle of the pyramid. Now, do you think that's an accident? I kind of doubt it. So we'll finish off the slides here with a discussion of dunce caps and witch hats, because this is another classic example of suppression of information by the controllers of our planet. The dunce cap, to give you the history on it, it's a hat that was devised by a 13th century Franciscan monk named John Duns Scotus. Duns is his name was John. Duns is the town he's from, and Scotus is Scotland. So he was a contemporary of St. Francis of Assisi, and earlier in his career, he was considered the intellectual equivalent of St. Francis. But what happened was he decided to try wearing the hats that were worn by the witches and wizards of the day, which, as you can see on the right, have exactly the same geometry in the slant angle of those hats. Well, as a result, he started to achieve a sense of enlightenment, of higher connection, higher or greater connection with his higher self. And so he started to develop a concept of a metaphysical God, a God that did not need the Catholic Church or, as an intermediary. And of course, the Catholic Church wanted to have nothing to do with that kind of concept. So not only was he, but the dunce cap were vilified and became an object of ridicule and scorn, leading up to, it peaked in the Victorian England era when students who were slow learners, had to wear this and sit on a stool in the corner as an object of ridicule. So what is really a source of enlightenment, and Lisa and I have tried this, we've done research on it ourselves. You can go to Party City and buy one of their birthday hats or New Year's hats. You don't even have to make it. And, it costs you $5. You can put one on and you will definitely feel something going on when you're wearing that hat, if you're are calm and look for that sensitivity. But it definitely has an impact. But this is just, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, a cone is nothing more than a pyramid with multiple sides, right?
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So, again, in this case, the Catholic Church was suppressing this knowledge because once people become aware of this, and we'll be talking about the science and the sacred geometry more tomorrow, but once you get an appreciation that the universe is precise and mathematical and does respond, and that there is a process by which your thoughts can become your experience. And that's really the secret. I'm putting a little hook in for tomorrow, Greg, because what we're going to be discussing tomorrow, at least from a research standpoint, is a new discovery I made, which is linked to developing a model for the creative process. And that is the universal model for scaling that's used by nature. And I believe that I figured that out. So, and not a surprise, it relates exactly to the geometry of the pyramid. So anyway, a few more examples. Sails on a sailboat seem to work best when they're configured in the same angle as the Russian pyramid. Here are two more examples from nature. Light refraction in the left example. What the experimenter did was to take a pipe. They put a sphere of glass at the end of it, and then they directed light through that, and they measured the angle of refraction. And what a surprise, it's exactly the geometry of the pyramid. Another example of nature demonstrating this geometry. And then on the right is a megaphone. The cheerleaders in college when I went to school still use these. I know now we've got electronic versions, but the geometry of the megaphone, the original megaphone, again matches that of the pyramid as well. And finally, last but not least, our DNA. This angle is found in our DNA as well, not just in the external geometry, but also in the geometry of the microtubules that make up our DNA. So we find it everywhere, and there's a reason for that. And we're going to explore a lot of that more tomorrow. But anyway, before we finish up, happy to do discussions. If you're interested in purchasing our products, you can go either to StargatePyramids.com, which is where you can get the pyramids, and you can buy caduceus coils there. You can also go to Pyramid Surge, which is Lisa's website. That's where you'll get the capstones, apex amplifiers, bionized sand, and her own version of caduceus coils. So you can also link to her website through a link in the shop section of Stargate Pyramids. Use the coupon code Galactic Greg 10, and you'll receive 10% off of your purchase. And just to let everyone know, we are in the process of combining our websites. We're waiting for that to occur, and looking forward to that day because it's taken way longer than it should have. But we will be combining our sites soon to make the shopping experience more pleasant. So there we go.
And I would just mention too, we have a lot of informational videos on our YouTube channel, Pyramid Science Foundation. So check those out. I mean, like I said at the beginning of the show, Charlie even has a video that teaches you how to make your own pyramid out of just basic PVC pipe that you buy at the hardware store. But it can be made of any non-conductive material like wood. You know, some people use, oh my goodness, bamboo.
Bamboo, right.
There you go, yeah.
Bamboo. Yeah. So, I mean, you can be creative with it. You know, but we have a lot of informational videos. I'll actually be doing a live stream this Saturday on our channel to share how to make bionized sand, bionized quartz sand, and how to put it in the poles of your Stargate pyramid.
Right. So, and then, and the following week, we're going to show people how to kind of an advanced course on using the caduceus coil as well. So
yeah, we didn't touch on that today at all. So we'll have to touch on that tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll touch on that, but. And tomorrow as well, we've got some testing research that we've done on all of these, the pyramid and all of the other accessory products and how it enhances your life force energy that we'll be discussing as well. So, as well as testimonials, and then the new research that I have done in the last month. So anyway, we'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
So,
I very much look forward to that as well, and as will the Patreon members. They will have a great wealth of benefit from that, and as anyone would from this information today, guys. If you're hesitant at all in trying out one of these healing, it doesn't matter what you can be completely healthy. See, that's what I often stress to individuals about herbal medicine as well. Well, why do you take that? You're healthy. You don't have to be unwell to experience the profound benefits of any healing modality or any holistic technique. Wherever you're at in your life, ladies and gentlemen, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're experiencing, these healing modalities, this sacred geometry, this ancient mathematics, this suppressed true power and lost history and healing is meant for all of you. It is your divine right. Whether you're healthy or sick, it doesn't matter. It has been taken away from us. It has been suppressed. So anyone on any level of health and wellness can experience the benefits of these healing modalities. You can experience the benefits of learning about your true history. It doesn't matter where you are. I just wanted to stress that profoundly to the audience, that anyone on any level of health and wellness, you could be an Olympian athlete. It doesn't matter. You can still experience the profound benefits from these pyramids. And I can honestly tell you that it'll elevate your spiritual self, your higher self, your spiritual journey. It'll allow more downloads to come through. It'll allow more inspiration to come through. It'll simply put you in a place of betterment, in a realm and a form of betterment that you weren't within before. So if anyone is hesitant on any level, please don't be. Again, if your intention is to ascend, to grow, and to expand, then know that there are others out there, such as Ziese and Charlie, who have the intention to provide these modalities to help you. They're out there. And I just can't profoundly speak enough about the wealth of benefits that come from these modalities. I myself have experienced them. Mark Atwood, JCK, Al Pisoni, and so many others within this community, and so many others. Lisa, you have a client that has what is she? She's put in 15 orders. You were saying off.
Oh yeah, I have a couple people like that. They just can't get enough. So They just, I mean, like I said, every capstone I create has a different energy to it and helps transform different aspects of your life. So, you know, constantly changing those out is actually ideal. And even your intuitive design capstone, the one I made for you specifically, you'll outgrow that eventually. You know, you'll get to a plateau and you'll need a different one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I want to respond to this one comment. Somebody is focused on living in circles and round. Everything should be round or whatever.
Yeah.
But the peak of the pyramid is actually the center of the torus, which is round. So.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about that in some depth tomorrow. Yes, but that is exactly, and it's the peak of the pyramid or that midpoint in the torus where time and space come together. So we'll try to delve into that, and I'm going to begin to show you a little. We're not completed yet, but this new research has taken us in a whole. We're going to at least be able to visually see how the torus and the tip of the pyramid all come together.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So to address Billy Joe Hunt, again, go back and rewatch this video from the beginning. You know, take down the information and do your own research as well. You know, set the intention to find out. You know, to find out about this stuff and to discover all this stuff. Go back and rewatch the video, my friend. That's really all I can say. But yes, everyone, we will be doing a second part of this broadcast series. It will be on Spirited Rebirth and Herbal Healing, our Patreon page for our Patreon, exclusively for our Patreon members. If any of you have not joined our Patreon, you are simply missing out, and you will miss out on this wonderful gnosis that is coming forth tomorrow. For those that have not signed up for our Patreon page, please support us there. We would love to have you, and there's a wealth of benefits there for you. It's www.patreon.com/Spirited Rebirth Herbal Healing. That's all one word. www.patreon.com/Spirited Rebirth Herbal Healing. So if you want to see the broadcast for tomorrow, you can either tier is available, tier 1 or tier 2. If you're tier 1, you will catch the live replay. You will have access to the live replay. For tier 2, you will have access to the actual live and the replay. So, okay. Cool. So is there anything else that we wanted to go into today? Anything else we wanted to cover, or are we going to?
I just want to say that if people have questions, I'm an open book. As Lisa said at the outset, we do any and all information that we get of a research or scientific nature, we publish. Happy to answer questions. Contact me at charlie@stargatepyramids.com if you have questions, comments, or anything else. You know, if you have a testimonial that you'd like to tell us about, or whatever. You know, we're always. I'm not doing this really to get rich anymore. I worked on Wall Street and tried that for a while, and I know that wasn't the right answer. So, you know, I'm doing this in part, you know, to help humanity. And so, if you have questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to get in touch.
Yeah, and I just want to say, you know, we got blasted with orders a few months ago, Charlie and I, and I'm at the end of playing catch up to those orders. Some people were waiting 3 months for orders. That's not going to be that long of a wait anymore, but for my products, it's going to be about a 5-week wait. If you place your order today, Charlie will be able to get his pyramid out to you right away, but it actually will give you the chance to experience the Stargate pyramid energy by itself. And then when you receive my products, you can see how it enhances that energy and how it transforms you even more. So just keep that in mind. And all I ask is for your patience. You know, everybody's been so kind and patient waiting for our items because they are energy products, and it takes a lot of my energy and a lot of love, you know, to make them for you. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. It's worth the wait. It truly is. It truly is worth the wait. And while you're waiting, set the intention to maybe learn a little patience, huh? You know, that's always it's always a helpful practice. Always, always, always. And yes, obviously, guys, pyramidsurge.com, stargatepyramids.com. And if anyone is interested in joining the Patreon page, we will be live tomorrow on Patreon exclusively for our members at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Thursday tomorrow on Patreon exclusively for our members. Again, Tier 1, you'll be able to access the live replay. Tier 2, you'll be able to access the actual live and the replay. Tier 1 is $17 S-Coop, and Tier 2 is $25. Okay. The link for Patreon is in the chat, guys. It's in the chat if anyone's interested in joining a Patreon page. And there's just a wealth of wisdom and gnosis there, guys, and helpful healing techniques and modalities, guys. It really is a beautiful page, and I'm really looking forward to having you guys there again tomorrow and introducing you to our wonderful community that is just gung-ho on all of this healing stuff. We've already gotten an immense response from our video with Harms. Everyone is jumping on board, and I know when they see these pyramids and these capstones, because everyone's been asking me within the Patreon group, they just love these pyramids, they love these capstones, and they want to know how they can contribute and get their hands on them. So they're very, very excited for tomorrow. So I'm also looking forward to just divulging a little bit deeper into certain things tomorrow. This stuff is, like I said, I'm a kid in the candy store with all this stuff. It's just fascinating. So thank you guys so much for joining me here today and tomorrow, and for expressing this profound truth and healing modalities to everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. Your love and support is just greatly received and lovingly appreciated. And I know Charlie and Lisa, they second that for all your love and support. Guys, if you want to reach out, you want to donate, you want to contribute to this research, please do. Because by contributing to this research, we change generations of lives. We allow this information to flow into the hearts and minds of the collective and essentially alter and elevate the collective consciousness as a whole. And this is all of our divine right, and we all deserve this. So if anyone wants to contribute in any way, shape, or form to Lisa, to Charlie, and to their incredible research, please do so without hesitation. Because again, when you do, you elevate the collective consciousness as a whole.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Thank you for having us. We really enjoyed it, and we do look forward to getting back together tomorrow for part 2.
Yeah, it'll be another exciting divulge. So thank you both so much for joining me here today. We'll see each other tomorrow, and everyone in the audience, thank you all so much again for your love and support. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. And again, if you wish to, we'll see you on Patreon tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, October the 7th. Thank you all so much, and God bless.
Bye-bye.
Many blessings to everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.